Well, like Harris said, my name is Jodie Campbell Jacobs, known as Jodie Campbell when I went to Maryland, class of '02. And I became a professional organizer about 11 years ago. I got a degree in communications, and I realized every office I worked in, I spent time in the mailroom and supply room because I couldn't find what I needed, and I was so frustrated. And finally, one of my best friends said to me, "Why don't you start a business?" And I found out there's a whole industry for organizing, and I haven't looked back since, and I love it. Organizing can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It can mean looking like you live in a magazine, or it can simply look like you can find what you need when you need it. You have to figure out what your good enough is. And right now, with everything going on and everyone stuck inside and probably multiple people in your house, it is harder than ever to feel like you can stay organized. And I'm here to help and give you some hints. I don't know about you, but I have a 9-year-old and an almost 6-year-old who are home with me, and then a husband who is working full time, also at home, which is why I'm in my guest room. It's the only quiet spot in my house right now. And the only way we can function is if our house is organized, because each of the kids have their own needs for school. My husband has his own needs for work, and then I'm doing virtual sessions for my clients also. So if our individual workstations are not organized, we're just like chickens without a head. So it really will help your productivity if you're organized. The other thing is there are multiple studies that show your physical environment has so much to do with your mental well-being. So if you're already stressed, you are going to look around and feel even worse because you're going to feel this burden of, oh, I've got to deal with that pile in the kitchen, and I still have to do the linen closet. And what about those clothes I wanted to go through? And the seasons are changing, and where are my shorts? If you're organized, it takes all of those little mental to-dos off of your mind. People with anxiety and ADD and ADHD diagnoses also have a lot of trouble concentrating when their environments are chaos. They might be sitting there trying to look at the screen, but above the screen they see, oh, there's mail I haven't filed, and oh wait, the kids didn't clean that up. Oh wait, that's broken. I need to go online and buy a new one. So if you have a space that is calm and organized, it'll help you focus and function also. Right now, I personally am taking this time to do a lot of little projects that I always said, oh, I'll do that one day. Hopefully you guys are too. But a lot of people sometimes bite off more they can chew, and they say, I'm going to organize the whole house. You are picking a project that is way too big. You need to kind of break it down into smaller, easier to obtain goals. So even instead of me saying, I'm going to do my whole kitchen, how about today I do one cabinet and take every single thing out, touch it. You can ask yourself if it sparks joy. Or what I do is just say, okay, how many of these do I have? How many do I actually like to use? The ones I don't, why? Is something broken? Is it just not as functional? Is it your backup? Why do you have it? If you ask yourself, if you got rid of it, would you replace it? If you were in a store right now, would you buy it full price? And then put things back the way you use them. I personally am only 5'4", so I cannot reach anything above the second shelf in my kitchen unless I have a step stool. So anything I should be using every single day should not be any higher. But some of my champagne glasses, which is not something I drink every day, can go higher. Or maybe the platters or certain entertaining things can either go downstairs or up on a top shelf. So you've got to kind of think about how you use your house. There isn't always cookie cutter answers for how everyone's house should be organized, because we all live and function differently. If you don't have small kids, you probably don't need as many plastic cups as I do. Different things like that. So a lot of the advice I give my clients is very personalized, which is why I want to take questions from you guys today. But there are some generic rules about organizing. It is, where are things, first of all, how many do you have of something, like I said with the cups? Where do you use it? So if you iron your clothes for work, where do you iron? Do you actually iron in the laundry room? Do you iron in your bedroom? If you iron in your bedroom, then you should make room in your bedroom or closet for the ironing board and iron. You shouldn't have to bring it downstairs every time because you're not going to. So a lot of it is a conversation of how we actually function in our house, and that's where those things belong. I see the first question. How do I face my deceased parents' stuff? I start, then I get sad quickly. I hear you. I lost my father about 5 years ago, and it was up to my sister and I to deal with all of his stuff. And the first thing you do when you're trying to figure out what to get rid of, no matter what it is do the easy things first. If you try to tackle the hardest part, the most emotional things, you are going to get emotionally exhausted too quickly. So when you're looking at this stuff, is there anything you can make obvious, easy answers for? So is there anything that's trash? You know, old t-shirts that are like the undershirts, you know, things that you don't care about. There was no emotional attachment for your parent or loved one or for you. So set that aside and figure out, is it something you can donate or is it something you can trash? Great. Or sell even. But if you don't want it, that's one category. We figure that what to do with it after. The next category is the other obvious. What do you definitely want to keep? Family photos, something your parent made, anything that as soon as you see it, not only do you think of your parent or loved one, but you can imagine exactly specific memory to it. Then you have all of the stuff. My father was the generation that you kept everything because either you could sell it, you could trade for it, it was going to be worth money someday, like all of those National Geographic magazines, which they're not worth anything. That's the stuff that you need to sit down and think about. If you're going to hold on to it, what are you going to do with it? And then one day, not nice as it is to think about it, what would someone who's cleaning out your house have to do with it? Would it make sense to your children why you kept it from your parent? What is it something you can frame and display? Are you actually going to frame and display it? So don't go, yeah, sure, when you don't think so. Right now, in the past 2 months, we've had all this time. If it's something that in the past 2 months, you wouldn't have done whatever it took to make that project work in your house, then you're never going to do it. So only keep the things that are financially or emotionally valuable to you. Don't hold on to things out of guilt. My father kept newspapers because he was convinced the newspaper from Woodstock was going to be worth money. If they're not in perfect condition, you can bring it to your library, but he kept it because it meant something to him. It doesn't mean something to me. So holding on to his junk is a burden to me. It doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy about my father. It just makes me feel like, I have to do this too. So actually, everything that I care about from my father pretty much fits in 2 plastic tubs in my house. One is filled with photos and old little memorabilia from when he was in the Navy, and the other stuff, but it's stuff that means something to me, that I remember. It's a shirt that he always loved to wear. It is something he made in high school. It is his collection of keys, which is ridiculous, but he had this enormous key ring with literally 100 keys on it because he always thought he was going to find what it worked to. That's a ridiculous thing for other people to hold on to, but it means something to me, and it fit in that one space that I was determined to fit down into. So when it also comes to doing a hard project like going through a deceased parent and you're really sad about it, don't try to go through all of it. Take an empty Amazon box or grocery bag, fill it up with some stuff, go sit down and do something you enjoy while you're doing it. So whether it's a TV show, a music, audiobook, something like that, grab a drink or a snack and go through that small little section, just that one box or that one bag, and just make those categories. Keep to archive, keep to do an action with, or let go of. And once you break it into those groups, then it'll make it easier for you to keep going. And if you finish the bag or box and you have the energy to keep going, great, do another one. But if not, at least you feel like you accomplished something because you actually finished that one bag. And that's a tip for organizing any space in your house. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Break it into smaller little projects, like just going through the mail, just going through the magazines, just going through one drawer in your dresser, something like that. Any other questions?
I had a question, and I know that I'm allowed to take myself off mute, but I encourage everyone to put it in the chat box. My question is, so I'm hitting the point in quarantine where I'm like slightly unmotivated, but I want to be motivated to do some of these last projects. What are some small steps that I can kind of do, like similar to sitting down in front of, you know, Real Housewives of Orange County and doing my archiving?
Hey, listen, whatever makes you happy, whatever motivates you. I mean, give yourself little treats and say, you know, if I finish this, then I can have dessert. I mean, think of yourself like a child, almost. Like what is something that motivates you? Is it, okay, if I go through my closet and I get rid of at least 10 tops, I will let myself go online and buy one good shirt or whatever. You know, what about the jeans? Okay, ladies, we all know we have like 4 different sizes of jeans. I'm not telling you to get rid of all of them because we know we need many different sizes throughout the year. But if there's the ones that you honestly have not fit into for 5 years and you're telling yourself you're going to lose the weight and you're going to fit into them, by the time you do, first of all, the style is going to change. And even if you lose the weight, your body still might have changed. All it does, having that in your closet, is make you feel guilty that you can't wear it. So tell yourself, okay, I'm going to go through this and I'm going to see that I no longer have any black pants at all. And so I will actually go online. If I get rid of all the ones that don't fit because I'm holding on to them because I don't have anything else, I will let myself actually buy another one. Because usually I say 1 in, 1 out. Anything you buy should mostly replace something you're getting rid of, unless it is really unique and you didn't have it. You know, I bought an air fryer. Love it. I didn't have one, so I couldn't get rid of it, but it does the same thing as my toaster oven. So I got rid of my toaster oven. So I don't need 2 things. So for the most part, I always say 1 in, 1 out, unless it's something special. And
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and for motivation, you know, a lot of it is you have to figure out what motivates you. Again, it's a very personal thing. So is it buying something? Is it rewarding yourself with a special drink or dessert? Is it, okay, when this is done, then I will let myself watch half an hour of TV? Or then I will, you know, what about doing a challenge with your friends? My friends and I were doing a squat challenge. So every day, one of us is texting the other 3 and saying, okay, drop and give me 20 squats. And we're all cursing at each other. I'm a New Yorker. But if I was just doing it on my own, after like 3 days, I'd forget it. So why don't you say to a few friends, hey, we all have a problem with something in our house. Maybe one person it's paper, the other person it's clothing, who knows what it is. Say every day, let's each show each other either 5 things we're going to get rid of, or 5 things we sorted, or 5 things you made a decision about. You know, get other people, because sometimes motivation is either being able to brag and say you did it, or even just that feeling of accomplishment. And right now, being able to share that with someone, especially since we're just not having the interaction with other people that we miss, that could really help you. Let's see.
Yeah, there was a question that came in. So basically, in your bathroom, and this is specific, but maybe you generalize it. Once you know, take everything out and you put it back in where it's placed, how does it go back to organized, not a mess?
So there is no such thing as organizing something once, unless you never touch it and use it again. Anything that we're constantly using, you're going to need to maintain. It's the same as cutting our hair and eating healthy and every other thing. It has to become a routine. So there are some things like clothing that are easy that you can say, okay, once a season. Like right now, it's hopefully going to stay warm soon. So this is when I would tell you to start going through your winter clothes. And what have you not worn all winter? Why didn't you wear it? Now, spring is going to be hard because most of us have not left the house much. But for, say, your bathroom, first thing you do, take everything out. Exactly. And sort it, say, on your floor, on the counter, wherever you have space, and sort it by hair products, face products, dental, whatever categories you have, medicine, doesn't matter. And then look at each category and say, how many cans of mousse do I have? How many tubes of Neosporin do I have? Is anything expired? Okay. Once you have what you're going to keep, again, think of what you can reach, what's the easiest to get to. Maybe bending down is difficult for you because of your knees and back. So maybe don't put the things you want to use every day underneath the counter. That's what goes in the medicine cabinet. Is every time you wash your face with a certain soap, you always use a certain lotion after it. Those should go together. So think of your routine from start to finish, what you use. All of those everyday things need to be where you can easily see it and reach it. And then the special things that maybe it's once a month, once whatever, that you whiten your teeth, or you have a special cleaner for your retainer, something like that. That's the stuff that you can kind of put where you can't see it as much, because you'll remember you have it. And if you have trouble remembering you have those things and you need to do them, like a hair mask or something, put a reminder on your calendar, set alarms so that once a month, and put a little alarm on it, so it says the first of the month, hey, do your hair mask, do your this, whiten your teeth. And that way it helps. No one can remember everything. I have mommy brain. My grandmother used to say she had senioritis, so use the technology you have. Use your calendar on your phone, or if you use a paper calendar, whatever it takes. But the rules for your bathroom are the same for the pantry and your closet. It's all the same mentality.
Yeah, there was also so there's a question I got privately, and maybe it kind of goes with the paper question. The private question was about old photos and how you would recommend storing them, and maybe there's kind of a similar paper organization.
So photos, actually should send, let me see if I can pull up this picture while we're talking. I was working with a mask on by myself in someone's house last week, that she is early mid-40s. Her parents just downsized before all this happened and handed down to her all of the family photos, including her grandparents' family photos that got handed down to her mom. So what we're doing is kind of making rough categories right now, which means taking over the entire lower floor of her house and grouping them by roughly who they are, which family. And then while she's doing that, she's looking, because, before digital cameras, you printed out every photo, and a lot of times you got doubles of everything. And then everyone was afraid to throw them away, because how do you get them again? You don't need every single photo ever taken. No one does. And whoever cleans your house one day will not want them either. So this is when to go through, and as you're doing it, be tough on yourself. Keep only the good ones. And then there are a million ways you can store it. One of the ways you can do is, of course, having them scanned. Now, you can do that yourself. There are a ton of companies that will do them. Digital Recollections, there's all those. If you need specific recommendations for any other contractors or resources, send me a message, because I'll give you all of those. I have people I work with. However, those are not free resources. There is a new, let me see if I can pull this up. There is a new app that I just actually downloaded, which lets you take a picture of a picture, and you can kind of correct the color a little bit and crop it, and then you save it to wherever you want. So it's not the same quality as actually scanning it right on glass, but sometimes we don't need the perfect quality for everything, especially if you want to do it for free. And that's actually, so I'm not staring at this and I'm paying attention to you guys. I'll make a note and I can give you guys that resource. Okay, Carol, help me. Photo scanning. But so first thing is to scan it, whether you pay someone, and a lot of companies, they'll either put it to a cloud, a jump drive, a CD, you name it, and they'll give you the pictures back if you want it. Another option is to box them up. And you can do that in, there's tons of plastic boxes that come specifically for prints that are the right size, and then those go in other boxes so you can put labels on them. Or you can do just paper boxes, but make sure any paper, photographs, anything like that that you want to store in a paper box, that the box is an acid-free archival quality. They're more expensive, but they will protect all of your paperwork. And then, but just be honest about yourself about how many you want. Like I got rid of, my father had a ton of just landscape photos of, I don't know where. I tossed them. They meant something to him. They didn't mean something to me. I do see.
The same with paper. Is that
Yep.
something you can do? A document
Yep. So
company?
paper, of course, same, similar scanning companies. And those, a lot of times, again, you don't need the piece of paper. Just take a picture with your phone and then save it to a Google album, an iCloud album, whatever you want, put it on a backup drive. You know, I have a list of how long you need to keep what kind of paper. The IRS website has a really good list of what you need, because for the most part, the paper you need, forget about emotional stuff. It's for taxes and legal. Those are the things you need. Just roughly, because we're still somewhat in tax season because of the adjusted deadlines. For taxes, you want to keep everything for 7 to 10 years, depending on how many kind of investments you have. After 10 years, you can get rid of everything except for the supporting documents if you have not been audited. So you can get rid of all the receipts, but I've been told by several accountants, do not ever get rid of your return, just your return, because then you can pull it up at any time you need. But you can get rid of all of the receipts, all of the scanned everything after 10 years. And then those, put in a filing cabinet, put in a lockbox, put in an archival box, put it on the top of your bookshelf.
Yes, there are a couple more questions. One is about selling versus throwing away. Donald says, we have so much stuff. We rented a pod to help us.
Yeah.
We can probably earn a large amount of money, but it's time consuming to sell on Facebook. So sell versus trash.
Yes.
And then later on, we can kind of talk about, which was one of my questions, places to donate.
Yeah, that's a hard one right now, but
sell, trash, donate.
okay, let's talk about pods and storage units, because I hate them both. Pods and storage units are perfectly fine for military, temporary moves, or if you're like selling your house and you need to stash stuff while you're staging it. Otherwise, they're just a money suck. That's all they are, is a money vacuum. If it doesn't belong in your house, then you don't need it. That's the quick and easy that people don't like answer. There's a humongous difference between value and worth. It does not matter that you spent $20,000 20 years ago on your kitchen, on your dining room, your dining room furniture that all matches and was this brand. What matters is what someone is going to buy it for now. It does not matter the money you spent on something. And that is something very hard for a lot of people to let go of, is whatever you spent was the decision you made, and that's over. What matters when you try to sell is what someone is willing to actually buy it for. So what I always recommend is go on eBay or Craigslist or Facebook and look at what people are actually selling it sold for. Not what's selling, but like eBay, you can click sold or the auction ended. So you can see if someone's trying to sell that one little Precious Moments figurine and 5 people are listing it for $500, but one person sold one for $20, there's your reality check. And think of it this way. Every single thing you own, you are paying mortgage or rent on in your house or in your storage unit or apartment. So, because everything is taking up room in that space, is it worth what you're paying for to store it? Do you think you could really get more money for it? And I understand that it's really painful sometimes to just say, forget it and donate it and take the tax write-off, especially when right now you're not getting much of a tax write-off with the laws that have been changing the past few years. But what is it worth more to you? Holding on to it and hoping someone spends what you want to get for it, or letting it go and having the peace of mind that it's gone, it's done, it's out of your house, there's no more stress, and it's one more to do that's no longer in your mind. So there's also, for bigger items, like say furniture, you can reach out to some of the auction companies like Quinn's. Quinn's is a great example. I've worked with them a lot. They're great for estate cleanouts where they will either do one of three things. They will appraise something, they will buy it straight out, or they'll put it to auction. They will not do any combination of the two, just because conflict of interest. But you can always email them and send them pictures and say, is this something that sells? They're not going to say, yes, you can definitely get $5,000 for it, but they can say, listen, you know, silver plated doesn't make any money. Silver is different. And they'll tell you whether it's worth separating a silver platter, a silver service worth just, or selling the one platter, you know, that kind of thing. And then the last part of that is take the expert's advice. If you're going to ask them for it, take it. I know it might hurt. I know your grandmother kept this or you bought it for $100. It doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what they can actually sell it for. So, and then the other part sometimes is, I see that question was also about he and his wife disagree on this. Is it worth losing your marriage over? Is it worth fighting over? Maybe you get to make a few decisions and she makes a few decisions. You know, that's a call me and I'll come help you. And then where to donate things. Yeah. This is difficult.
Well, and you, when we talked earlier, you had some good insight. You don't always defer to Salvation Army and Goodwill, which usually that's I usually just drop it off at Goodwill because it's the easy thing to do, but I know you had other opportunities.
Yes. So there are a ton of local little, depending on where you guys are. I'm in Springfield, Virginia. There are tons of local little charities that always need stuff. And Salvation Army and Goodwill are really great for when you have a mass amount of things you want to get rid of. You're moving, you've got to it's just too much. You don't have time. Just take it to one place that takes everything. But like by me, there's a place called Echo, and they take almost everything, and everything goes directly to people who need it in our community. They're non-denominational. There's a ton of churches, of course, that have closets and pantries that they want to get rid of stuff. There's a lot of places right now that unfortunately are not taking. There are little ones. In Northern Virginia, there's the Little Red Schoolhouse, which is a historic red schoolhouse that does a yard sale every year, and all the money goes to preserving it. Right now, what you can do is you can drop stuff on their doorstep, tell them through Facebook that you did it, and they'll put it in. They'll come after, put it in, and eventually they're still going to do the yard sale. One of the things I absolutely hate are the boxes that are in the parking lots of the grocery stores. I'm going to try to be nice about this. 90% of them are for profit. They take the fabric, they sell it to other companies, and maybe 10% of money might go to a charity. If you see a huge one that says just like Goodwill, it's legit. Go ahead, put your stuff in there. But if it's like some of these Planet Aid and all this stuff, do your research. Charity Navigator is a really great website that you can look up the background on any nonprofit and see where the money actually is going. If you're at the point where you just don't care and you just want to get rid of it, have fun. Go to Salvation Army, Goodwill, those boxes, do what you want, get it out of your house. But if you actually care about where it goes, again, you can email me. I can send you some resources. Some that you might just need to hold on to, unfortunately, right now. But maybe you dedicate one space in your house or your apartment that's the good stuff that you actually want to make sure someone needs it. The other thing is if you're on any Facebook groups in your neighborhood, put a call out on there because you never know who volunteers at a food kitchen or a different nonprofit that you haven't heard of. There's a ton of shelters in this area that are always looking for clean clothes. But you cannot donate clothes that are ripped, dirty, stained, or damaged. Goodwill will throw them away. Every charity will throw them away. And what it does is it clogs up the donation train because it takes those volunteers time to sort it out. So you're actually wasting their resources. So take the old socks that don't have pairs now, but you can donate bras. You can only donate underwear if it is new in a package or has a tag. So take all the dirty old underwear that your kids don't fit into anymore, the socks that don't have friends, those need to go in those boxes for the fabric that gets sold to some random places.
So do we want to take it back kind of a little like 10,000 foot view and then we'll jump back into the specific questions. I know you had some I know we were originally talking about some of the overarching, organizational items, and I think we started answering questions, and then I know you have some photos to share. So I was just going to bring it back maybe to higher level. Yeah, and then we can jump back into questions.
So, I've worked in a few houses that have been featured in magazines. And the only way those houses stay that way is because they have full-time help. I'm an organizer and my house is nowhere near perfect. Like I said, I have 2 kids, I have a dog and a husband, and my husband's an engineer, so his brain is completely wired differently than mine. He's a runner. I will run if I'm being chased. Like we are not the same animal in any way, but we love each other. So what works for me doesn't work for him. And so you've got to figure out whose responsibility it is for certain objects, and also figure out, my thing is always going back to good enough. My overall goal for my house and my everyday client is that everything in your house should have a home. And it should be easy to get to it, and it should make sense to you. It doesn't have to make sense to me. I don't live there. I don't need to know where your roasting pan is, as long as you can find it when you want it. Whenever I host Thanksgiving, my sister-in-law and my sister and my mom are here, and they're the type that they have to help. Like they just insist. So I need to be able to explain to them, if you go downstairs in my storage room, there's a section that's all my extra kitchen stuff because I have a tiny kitchen. So if I say go to the kitchen section, it's on the second shelf, that should make sense. But to me, everything should have a home, because that way it's easy to put it away. You know, especially with kids, as my 9-year-old gets older, she can do a lot more, and I'm giving her more responsibility. And my husband, sometimes I have to explain to him why I put things somewhere, and then it'll click. And we make each other responsible for different things. That way it's his ownership. But, we have kind of 2 playrooms. Our big playroom for the kids is downstairs because I have a split level house, and then we have a little bit of stuff upstairs. And I've told the kids there are 4 bins, or actually 8 bins along the bottom of a bookshelf in my front room. I don't care what goes in each bin. It has to make sense to them. Because if you separate the Barbie shirts from the Barbie pants from the Barbies and the kids are never going to maintain that. So you have to take a step back and stop thinking so small sometimes. I would love if all the cars are in one, and all of the balls are in another, and all the building toys are in another. That sounds great. As long as everything is picked up and put in those bins, I don't care how they do it. Now, every month or so, I take and I dump them all out. And honestly, when they're sleeping or in school, I throw half of it away. That's how you clean up after kids, is when they're not there. But I take all this stuff that's like missing pieces, or I don't even know what it is, and I say to them, you have to tell me why we're keeping this. And if they say, oh, I just forgot I had it. Okay, where can you put it so you remember it? So it has to work for them. But to me, my house is not perfect, but if any of you told me you were going to come to my house for the first time, maybe not today, but it should take me no more than an hour or 2 to get my house to the point where I think it is good enough for a stranger to see. It should be easy for me to clean up, because there's an obvious place where to put everything. And if there isn't, then you have to ask yourself why. Do you have too many of those things? Do you not have room in your closet and your dressers for all your clothes? Well, then either you have too many clothes, or we need to think about your infrastructure. Is there what's going on in your storage, in your guest room or something like that, or under your bed, stuff like that. In your kitchen, if you can't fit all of your water bottles, how many do you have? Why do you have that many? Are there some you don't always use? The first step is always first take everything out, then sort, then purge, then organize. There's no point of organizing things you are not going to keep. You're just wasting time. And then sometimes, even then, you'll put things back and you'll come back and you'll go, I don't miss that stuff that I took out. Or, I realized I really wanted that one thing. Okay, then put it back. And sometimes organizing, you have to redo it a few times. There's a only handle it once, Ohio. I don't agree with that, because sometimes you have to try something out and, okay, that's not working. You really do like to hang up your shirts instead of fold them. Okay, so let's put them back in the closet, but then take something else out. So sometimes you have to try a few things that works for you, especially when you live in a house or apartment with someone else. And that's when sometimes you go, okay, fine. You know what? You're responsible for keeping the kitchen organized. I'll take care of the laundry room. And that way, don't put your foot down and try to pick a fight and control everything. My husband's an engineer and I'm an organizer. We're both control freaks, and we've had to draw our lines between this is mine, I really care about it, and this is not worth fighting over. I'll get used to it. So there's some big picture stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to, and some of my favorites have been you're paying rent or mortgage for everything you own. That was interesting. Shouldn't be a one-way street,
Yes.
one way. Everything shouldn't be coming in from Amazon. You should be putting things out from Amazon.
Now that you say Amazon, I don't know if they're still doing it right now, but Amazon had a program that if you take their empty boxes and fill it with stuff, they will pick it up for free and donate it back to Goodwill for you.
Good note.
So those, I don't know if they've suspended that, because a lot of places have suspended some of it, but Amazon was doing a give back box where you could take their boxes and fill it up with anything that fit in it. And then you go on and you schedule a pickup, and they'll pick it back up and they'll donate it to Goodwill or a few places. So yeah,
I love that.
We all know Amazon, come on now.
And then I love it should only take an hour to clean up your house, which is a goal, but yes, sounds good. So another question, and I think we talked about that. So someone says, whenever cleaning people come to my family's home, they constantly lose things and they have to search the entire house. Their dad thinks they should have a box to store the items that are left out, but is there something you would suggest?
No, I think that's great, because there's a humongous difference between cleaning and organizing. If I'm in your house, I might dust a shelf before I put something on it, but I'm not scrubbing your toilet. So and cleaners come in to do that. They clean. So they've got to move things out of the way. And if there's not an obvious place where they should put it, they're just going to stash it so they can finish their job. So I think having a bin, maybe that you leave out on the kitchen table or somewhere when they're there, to say, hey, here's all the leftover Legos, earrings, socks, I don't know whose they are. I think that's a great idea. But then also set some sort of alarm that box has to get dealt with that day or by the next day. I'm a huge fan of alarms in my calendar. I just use the Google Calendar on my iPhone, and I will have on there alarms for, okay, I'm going to spend half an hour going through the paperwork. Because like for taxes, every year when I file my taxes, I go through the oldest year I have, because you might as well just get it done then. So I set a little thing on like the tax day saying, go through not last year, but the latest year's taxes. If you know, you're going to say, okay, every Wednesday at 4, I have a break from life. Every Wednesday at 4, I can dedicate half an hour, whatever it is that you have the ability to do. I'm going to go through something. First, make a list of all the places in your home that bother you or that you think need attention. So, and don't say closets. Be specific. Master closet, pantry, downstairs storage room, under the bed, whatever. Make a list of everything. Then prioritize that list. What actually impacts your daily routines right now? Not when work is going on. What's impacting your schedule right now? Is it the laundry room and the kitchen and the rooms you're actually in? You're now set up home office. And what's bothering you the most? Because a lot of people struggle with, where do I start? My whole house is a mess, or I have all these projects. You have this whole list now. Where do I start? It doesn't matter. What matters is that you start. So look at that list and what is bothering you the most. Is it the paper because you're still trying to finish your taxes and you can't find everything? Is it your clothing because now you're not wearing all your office clothes, you're wearing more casual clothes, and you're wearing the same 2 pair of leggings, but you swear you have 5 of them? It doesn't matter where you start. Just pick something. And then take that project, say clothing, and break it down into bottoms, tops, undergarments, whatever category you want. And then maybe business tops versus casual tops, and think of it like that. It's really, and then as you do it, cross it off, because we all know how good it feels when you actually cross off something on that to-do list and you can see it. And just break it into as small of a project as you need. Like I always have a drink. My kids, I feel like all they do is snack. So if they're going to go through things, I let them have a snack. I'm someone that's very good at multitasking. So I need TV or music or an audiobook on. I have some clients, my husband, they need silence. If they're doing something, you can't talk to them during it. They need to concentrate. That's fine. But just figure out how you work and what's bothering you the most. And then it's like, some of you probably heard the whole, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Your house is the same thing. Your house is your elephant. So just find, maybe just go through your books. Now, right now, the libraries aren't open, but most of the time, all public libraries are always desperate for donations. So every book that I can, I bring to the library, because if they can't shelve it, they always sell them at their yearly book sales, and the money goes straight back to the library. Or your local schools. If there are any kids' books, the local public schools are always desperate for the books. So right now, that's the stuff, unfortunately, you have to put on hold. Or Facebook has some really great buy nothing groups. If you search, like, I'm part of like the Buy Nothing West Springfield group, and it's literally for people to give away and get things for free. So if it's, I don't care who needs these, if people want these books, it'll keep them company. You just put on there 50 books, whatever it is, you take a picture, take all or take none on the curb, and let someone else love it. If you don't love it, let someone else love it.
You kind of touched on this just now, but how do you motivate your children to organize? Or, I was thinking, is there a way to gamify, make it a game, or some of your tips?
I should get my 9-year-old in here and let her answer that. All right, so I'll be honest. It's half motivate and half tough. This is what we're doing. I first give her the opportunity, because my 5-year-old, forget it. He's not organizing yet. I organize it and I tell him kind of how it goes. We're not at the stage. He's not the type that has the brain or the attention for it yet. But my 9-year-old does. So my 9-year-old, part of it was she really wanted to rearrange her room and her furniture. I said, okay, not until we clean it out. So I told her she first got some time in her room to do as much cleaning as she thought she needed. And I gave her like a little bin that she could put anything she didn't want in there. And then I got to decide, because there were a few things in there that, no, sorry, she wasn't getting rid of yet. And then we sat down together and we just did section by section. We went through a bookshelf. We talked about what was on there. We went through her clothes. And when she got kind of antsy, I asked her if she wanted a break, and I gave her like a 10-minute break. She could go have a snack, watch something on TV, go outside. I didn't care what it was, whatever she needed. And then she had to come back. And we didn't do the whole room in one day, but we went through her clothes. We went through everything. And then when we were done, we got to put her furniture however she wanted it. So I asked her what she wanted for her reward for doing it. And she's found now that she's doing schoolwork, her distance learning in her room. She actually likes being in there. We put a little beanbag chair that she'd rather sit in instead of her desk. Fine. Okay. It's whatever makes her productive. Now she's 9, so she's still somewhat afraid of me and excited by things like that. If you have a teenager, it's a little different. So again, you have to find what motivates them. Is there something they've been asking for? Can you maybe go on a walk separately with them? Or if you really want them to get rid of stuff, for every something they get rid of that they have too many of, maybe you'll give them 50 cents or $1, and then they can take that money, because for them at a younger age, they're not going to see the benefit of an organized, clean room. They're going to just think it's just what you want. It's your house, and why are you telling me what to do? So unfortunately, just telling them, hey, it makes everything calmer and prettier, they don't care. So fine, you got to ask them, what do you want? Within reason. My daughter first wanted a $1,000 water slide. Not happening. But I got her the beanbag chair. So, you got to find out what motivates them and let them try it first by themselves, and give them some kind of guidelines, like you really need to get rid of some books, or you really need to be able to fit all of your stuffed animals in a certain thing. And over that, then sit down with them, and don't make it painful. Like, try to make it a game, try whatever you can to kind of, make jokes, because if they're not having fun, they're not going to do it. Any other
I
questions?
thought maybe that would be some good advice for myself too.
Yes. Yes.
Give myself 50 cents for everything I donate.
Oh, the quick question, the German language
Oh,
books.
yes.
Um, so there is Book Bliss, Google Book Bliss, Bliss. It is a company that buys books, and they don't do any fiction, but historical books and things like that. Book Bliss might help with those old German language books, but no one wants old textbooks. Sorry. Textbooks that you've been keeping from college. Let's recycle them into the next book.
That I actually got a private question about, and this is on a side note, but if anyone wanted to get certified in professional organizing themselves, well, basically wait until a few clients are under your belt or certification right away.
No. You have to have a certain amount of hours to get certified, first of all. If you are interested in becoming a professional organizer, first thing is subcontract for other organizers. And that's what I did for a year. Even though I thought I knew what I was doing, alone in a room, I could organize. But organizing is 3 different things. It's the stuff and how to actually store it, keep it, get rid of it, all that stuff. It is working with people, figuring out how to motivate them, how to talk to them, why they're in the situation they are, how to keep them from that. It's almost psychology because everyone is different. And then it's running a business, which is a totally different hat. And you have to figure out how to do all of them. So by working with other organizers, you can hear the conversations they have with people. You can see how they talk through the process of why you're holding on to something, even though you know it's irrational, but you still can't get yourself to get rid of it. You can hear how we talk through people, and you can really learn by just kind of being a bystander. And things like even when I pack or unpack someone from a move, you understand why we do it the way we do it. There's a really great organization that's NAPO, they changed the name, National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals. It's a mouthful. It's not very organized. There's a local chapter. The Washington, D.C. chapter covers all of Maryland, D.C., and Virginia. I'm part of that. It fluctuates about 100 people. We meet once a month. Right now it's all virtual, but we usually meet once a month in Arlington, and then the other month will be in Silver Spring and back and forth. And that's how you can meet other organizers to work for, and how you can get more continuing education. And then the National NAPO has a lot of webinars and classes you can take online to teach you a lot of that. Once you have some time under your belt, you need a few years before you can become certified. Certification, you have to have a certain amount of hours documented working with people. You have to have an organizer come to your house so you know what it feels like to be an organizer. You have to take a certain amount of classes. So it's a whole process that it's not going to mean anything, and you're not going to be able to really do it unless you've been working for a few years. And the other big thing about being an organizer, anyone that works in someone's house, their first step, forget about the marketing and the name and all that, is get liability insurance. So do not let anyone work in your home unless they have liability insurance. It protects them if they fall or get hurt. It protects you if we break something, because accidents happen. God knows how many bruises I've gotten. Luckily, I've never had to make a claim. But do not let anyone do any work in your home without liability insurance. Sorry, little disclaimer for everyone.
Disclaimer, yes. Right. Just a couple more minutes here. Jane asks, can you talk a few minutes about organizing your computer, online files, email? Do you believe in zero inbox?
I wish.
I'm not,
No.
Yeah, no.
But I'm huge into creating labels and other, the subfolders. I have one for, especially right now with the distance learning my kids are doing and the amount of emails I'm getting from the teachers. I have a folder in my email for each kid. And then under that, there's stuff for classes, there's stuff personal, whatever. In my business email, I have separate folders for certain big projects. Besides just the organizing, I do closet and storage space design. And I do renovation plan reviews, because a lot of architects will want to make sure everything's pretty. I can come in and make sure everything has a place to be stored, because they think that, you don't need that much storage in the kitchen, but they don't really want to listen to you when you say how much you cook. So I have separate folders for some of those bigger projects that have a lot of contractors back and forth involved. And then I have a folder for receipts. So anything I have to spend money on for clients or business. I have one for NAPO. I have one for resources because there's a listserv with all of us organizers that we're constantly asking, hey, I need a new person. Does anyone know anyone that does closet doors? So I have that resources. And because that way sometimes I can't remember that person who sent me that thing. So how do you search for it? Well, if I know it has to do with resources, I can at least go to that folder. So that's the email. Email is, especially now when we're sitting around and on a lot of Zooms, and I'm assuming you're all just staring at me, listening to every word I'm saying. But if you're like me, you're multitasking. And this is when I would kind of, as I'm listening, go through my email. And I always start at the oldest first. Because if you go to the oldest email in your inbox, you can go, wait a second, have I really not looked at this in 4 years? Why do I still have this? Or this is from the old house or the old this, and create folders. I have a folder in my Gmail that's called donations. So every time I make any sort of financial donation and I get a receipt emailed to me, I just immediately move it into donations. That way, when it's tax time, I just pull up my folder and there's all my receipts. So just kind of think of, if you were to look for those emails, what would you use to look for them? Is it someone's name? Is it for your house? Is it your work? Is it a project? And make folders like that. I always have about 16 tabs open on my web browser. My husband has one, drives him nuts anytime he needs my computer. My thing is it's all the different projects, but what I try to do is once a week, touch every tab and go, wait, do I need to just bookmark this? Do I need to just screenshot it? Why is it still open? So that's why I think it's okay to not always be 100% clean and organized all the time. Like, you got to figure out your process, but then you got to figure out the end of that process. So mine is Sundays, I clean up my computer. With your desktop, a lot of computers don't like a ton of stuff on your desktop. Apple, like Macs, like I have, it can really slow down your processing. Because if you have a lot of things on your desktop, all those little icons that look like a folder or look like a miniature version of the picture that you're saving, those take processing to actually keep those little pictures up. And so I've been told, clean up your desktop. Even if you create one folder and then in it you create a million folders, don't have a million icons on your desktop. That was hard for me. That, I will admit, was very hard for me. There are organizers that specialize in just electronic organizing. I kind of do a little of everything because I feel like there's things about working with small families that still work with seniors, and it keeps me from being bored after doing this for over 10 years. But electronic, I mean, there's the cloud, there's email, there's hard drives. That's a whole industry. Just like Lego storage is a whole industry. So I can answer specific questions offline about electronic organizing, but you should be organized.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Any just final thoughts? I know I have my notes from what you've said and my takeaways, but if you have any super final thoughts, we've got 1 minute and then we're going to jump.
Well, my big thing is, again, take the pressure off yourself. Do what's good enough. Your house might be something that wouldn't be good enough for me, or it might be way more detailed than I would ever need. It doesn't matter. I don't walk into people's houses and judge. All my friends are afraid to have me come over because they think I'm going to judge their houses. I'm like, no, because I don't want you to see mine today. We all have the same situation where we just get busy or sometimes just get tired and lazy, and that's okay. So be gentle with yourself. Think of what your good enough is. And when you try to do something, break it down into smaller projects that are easy to handle at first and feel good when you get anything done. And then, of course, email me, reach out to me, Facebook, all of that. I'm going to put in the chat right now my email. And I'm sure Kara has information about me that she can share.
Yeah, I wrote down a bunch of resources. Someone asked if we'll share resources. I wrote down a few that you touched on, including the photo scanning app, document companies, Quinn's Auto Auction, Give.org, Amazon, Book Bliss, NAPO. So I know that Jodie also has a ton of resources on her website, because one of my questions was just like top 5 most inexpensive things you can purchase on like Amazon that will help you get organized. Those are all on her website.
Yeah.
So
But my Facebook page and my Instagram page, I'm constantly posting anytime I see, not right now, but like the free shredding events. Or anytime I get a tip about, hey, there was something, I don't remember. There's always something like there's a charity that collects bras for breast cancer survivors. Anytime I see that, I'm constantly posting that. So I'd suggest, follow my Facebook page and my Instagram page. I post the same stuff on both. And you can always send me questions through that. But I put on the chat my email address. Feel free to email me. I'm doing virtual sessions, but I'm also able to just answer a question or two quickly. And then, yeah, I can, if we have 2 seconds, I can show a few pictures, because one other thing people always talk to me about is labels. And they worry about getting a label maker or those vinyl labels. And let me see if I can share the screen like we tried earlier. Share. Okay. So this is a pantry I did that, of course, they had money and tons of space, and it looks all pretty and barely any food because they eat out a lot. Your pantry does not have to look like this, but within that, you can see how one of my favorite things are these plastic bins. And so we put all the salsa in one, all the sauces and condiments in another, and all the salad dressings in another. So when she wants something, you grab the bin, you get the one you want. Instead of trying to take all the bottles in the front out to get to the back one, I'm a huge fan of little bins like this in pantries, linen closets, things like that. This is a closet that someone had just moved in, didn't even have any storage in it at all. It was just a hole. So I designed this and then organized it. So sometimes you actually do need to change the shelving. Sometimes you can keep what you have. This was he didn't have a pantry really. So this is how he just kind of put his food in there. This client, he couldn't find it. So again, we got little bins. I just hadn't labeled them yet. But you can kind of see, like I put all of the baking things in one, all of the teas in another, all the spices in another, and all the coffee in, so that he could pull it down, pull out the one he wanted, and then put it back. This is what, he didn't want this as a pantry, but this is what it looked like at first. I put those little sliders in, and he wasn't using them very well. So again, when I was done, put things with other like things. So all the cleaning products are on the bottom. That way, first of all, if one opened and spilled, it didn't leak on anything. We see all the cleaning products there. Then these are going to be the paper cleaning products. Then this is where he liked to keep his breakfast stuff with his oatmeal and his protein powder. And this is his little bit of Tupperware. And then up here was his entertaining stuff. So it doesn't have to be complicated. Oops. Drawers, I love drawers. And sometimes all you need to get is a few just organizers, and keep what you use with what you use. So like this was all the prep stuff this client had. Sometimes you have to make things worse before you make it better. This was a shed that I worked on last year that we had to take everything out, go through what still worked, what didn't, and then we put it back. So we ended up labeling these tubs, but this was all the garden stuff, all the pool chemicals, and then this was going to be all the pool toys and all the lawn chair pads on the top. And that way the chairs were protected. So now she can actually get in and see what she needs, and she got rid of a ton of stuff, but we had to make it worse before we had to make it better. And then this is a linen closet that, again, it's not bad, but by putting these things in these bins, which we then labeled, for travel, here's all the travel dental, travel body wash, travel accessories, then the medicines, then here's all of her plug-ins and her air fresheners and her soaps. This stuff we didn't take out of the boxes yet. So it doesn't have to look like a magazine. It just needs to look good enough. Here's the alternative to a knife block. I love this knife organizer that fits in a drawer to get the knives off the countertop. This was a teenager who we took every single thing out of her bathroom to go through. Unfortunately, I don't have the after picture yet. But you can see sometimes things look worse. Here's a pantry that we took everything out. I put it all in the bins. I know I'm talking fast. And then we put it back. And look how it's so much more organized. Because you can see her grains. All of her sugars are in one. All of her syrups are in another. I also love Lazy Susans for the little bottles. So things don't have to look perfect. Here's my example about labels. You don't need a label maker. You can use duct tape. It doesn't matter. It's only what you care about. So this client, She did a tiny little apartment, and it had a little storage unit that she could have, you know, within the building. And so she had her big travel bags. And what she did was she stored her out of season in the travel bags. And this was fine. It doesn't matter what the labels look like because she could find what she needed when she wanted it. So that's my quick little, sorry.
No, that's
I threw
great. I
that.
think people are still hanging on. So we've got as long as people want to hang out. Just a quick question. I think it might be on your website, but
Sure.
just your favorite stores for organizing bins and your Lazy Susan.
Yeah.
Someone said a dollar bin at Dollar Tree, which I think is probably where I got mine. IKEA.
Okay. I don't care where you get them. Container store is expensive, but they have some really great specific things. I'm all good with dollar store, Target, Bed Bath, Amazon. One company that I really like their products. You saw those clear bins that have those like handles cut out. It's either called M Design or I Design. It's the same company. I actually saw some in Costco this week. They have all kinds. They'll say they're sometimes called pantry bins or fridge bins, but honestly, they're all the same thing. Some have either a uh, cutout little handle, or some have like a handle that kind of comes over and folds over. I love the clear, even though sometimes it doesn't look as good because you can see through and it looks like things are all jumbled. I love clear because then you can't forget what's in there, you know, and you can even just take a Post-it note and tape it to there if you needed a label. But I'm a very big fan of clear because you can't forget. There are a lot of people, if you don't see it, it doesn't exist. And that doesn't help you. If you really want the pretty like wicker baskets or things like that, then just at least you can get labels. You can even just take a piece of string and take a piece of paper and tie it through a handle. You don't have to get expensive, complicated. Oh, yep. Thank you, Corey. There's the M Design. I love their whole line. Lazy Susans everywhere. Again, Target, Amazon, all of those. If you want to get the clear ones, you get that. They have all different sizes. So the first thing, the biggest thing with Lazy Susans is measure your space, because pantries, sometimes those shelves are only 12 inches deep. Sometimes they're 16. If you're ever redoing a space, you know, keep in mind what you're storing on there, because people want really deep shelving, and deep shelving in somewhere like a pantry is awful because things go in the back. They go there to die. They disappear and you don't even know what's there. Which is why, again, those bins are great. Up in my pantry, I have a ton of them. Everything's in a bin pretty much except for the chips, because then being short, I can take it down, look through it, put it back. You know, like on the very top shelf. So again, talking about organizing, very top shelf in my pantry. I've got actually, luckily, a very big, wide pantry because it used to be a coat closet and I needed the pantry more. Are all my chocolate chips and all my baking stuff that, first of all, I have sneaky children. I don't want them getting to, even though I'm sure they know how to. Then they have, I have, the next shelf is again some more cookies and some more like mixes, things that I'm not going to just want to make, like the pancake mix and some of that. Then we're getting to the shelves I can reach. So I have all of my pastas, my grains, all of my canned food, which I have on a lot of Lazy Susans, or I have them in rows of what they are. All the beans are in one row. All of like the carrots and corn kind of vegetables are in another row. Then I have some of the crackers and nuts kind of there. And then the next row is where my kids can reach. So I have stuff that they don't care about, like that's where all my sauces and condiments are on one side. But then the other side, and this is big if you have any kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews, I have 4 drawers going down the middle, and those are all the kids' snacks because they can reach it. And the ones in the drawers are the ones they can have at any time, except for right now because that's all they're eating. But all of the fruit pouches, the little snack size bags, that's the stuff they can go and get and not ask. And then on the very bottom is where I put the heavy things, like if I have any sodas, and I have my extra paper towel and napkins, which a lot of people put paper towel and napkins on the top, because I have little kids that I'm trying to train how to be part of this family, not just visitors. I have paper towel and napkins on the bottom so they can get it themselves. I'm trying to teach them, when you realize we're empty, refill it. Trying is the word. I'm not going to pretend it's working all the time. but you've got to just figure out what works for you. A lot of people want to put that stuff that's unhealthy where it's harder to reach, so you don't just grab it, especially right now when we're all grazing. Put the things you want to be using easier right in front of you. So that's what I love about like those bins and the Lazy Susans. But that's also, again, something I would tell you every, say, 3 months, have it on your calendar to set an alarm to say, go through your pantry. And then bring the stuff that you realize you bought because you were going to hoard, because you thought the food was going to all disappear from the grocery store, but we're finding enough food. The things that you realize you're not actually going to eat, like the mandarin oranges, go donate them to a food pantry. Like Food for Others, actually, I do a lot of work through with Maryland, the Northern Virginia chapter of the Alumni Association. We do a big food event with Food for Others in Fairfax every year. That got canceled this year because it's in April. What they do is besides just giving out food to people who need it, they provide food for kids to take home over the weekends for kids that don't have food to eat. And a lot of times their parents are working, so they're home alone. So we put together these power packs that have 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, 2 dinners, 4 snacks, and 4 drinks. And it's all food they can eat for themselves, make themselves, like Easy Mac. So I always tell people, go out and that food that you realize realistically you're just never going to eat, please go donate it. Don't throw that away unless it's really expired. I see, someone has a question. The 3 categories. What's the categories of when you're thinking about sorting things? It is archive, so things you need to keep, like taxes and real estate documents and things like that. So archive. Action. Action is you have to do something with it. You need to frame something. You need to give it as a gift. You need to sew it. You need to wash it, whatever it is, but there's an action to actually do with it before you put it away. And the things you're going to keep and you just need to just straight throw it away, put it away. So archive, action, and put away. Those are the 3 things. Someone that works for Food for Others. Yay.
Yeah. And there's some specifics around craft supplies. And then
yes.
someone actually asked about your fees. I know you're doing virtual right now as an option. So that might be a good plug.
Yep. Talk to me about the fees offline, because there is a bit of mileage issues sometimes with some of it and the online stuff. So feel free to contact
your email and you can.
Yes. Crafts. Oy. Okay. Because that's definitely my house right now. So I sat down with my kids for the craft stuff. I sorted my craft stuff into 2 categories, big categories first. My 2 big categories are the kids can have access at any time to it, and the kids need me for it. So like glitter is not open season in my house. No. So glitter, some of the sharper, like I have one of those paper cutters with like the big kind of like razor thing. Some of that stuff, the hot glue gun, that is stuff that's actually stored in my office so that they know they're not allowed to just go get it. But pipe cleaners and construction paper, Sharpies, not allowed. Not happening. But the construction paper and the crayons and the pipe cleaners and all that stuff. I sat down with my kids and I said, what do you actually want to play with? And what do I see them playing with? And we put that in their craft room, and I use clear shoe boxes, which again, Amazon, Target, Costco, Bed Bath, I don't care where you get them, just clear shoe boxes. Because then they have a top and you can stack them. And they also have different sizes. So first figure out where you're going to put them. I have one of those big IKEA, like 4x4 cubby systems. So I needed to make sure I could either fit 1 in each of those cubbies or 2 boxes in each of those cubbies. And so we bought a certain amount of each size, and that we use for, my daughter has a lot of like string. She's into making the friendship bracelets. So all the string stuff is in one, and she makes these aqua bead things. They have these tiny little balls that you add water to and they stick to each other and they just are everywhere. That goes in another. And so I don't care what they do during the day, but right before dinner, those have to get cleaned up and put away. Otherwise they're not allowed upstairs. So that's when Mean Mommy comes out. Some of this is routine, and some of it is just putting your foot down and going, we have a system. It's not going to put itself away. So how often do I need it put away? During this quarantine, I've been slack. There are some nights I'm just like, whatever. They're going to touch it tomorrow morning. I don't care. I can walk on the floor because I have a big downstairs room that's basically, it's one open room, but we split into two sections. One is the TV, the couch, so that we call that the adult room, and the other half is the kid room. And there's some days, as long as everything's in the kid half, it's not worth the fight. But the next day it's going to be. So my kids like doing movie night. And for movie night, we pull the craft table over because I kind of hacked an IKEA table to be a craft table and a food table. They can't eat downstairs and watch TV if there isn't room on the table. So they have to clean the table to be able to have movie night downstairs. So you just kind of, there's times where I'm just mean mommy and you have to clean up because I said so. Sorry. And there's other times, well, you want to do a puzzle. You don't have room on your table. It's time to clean it up. So there's some of that with the craft supplies, but craft supplies use, okay, she says clear bins are not working for her. Nothing seems to make it back to the bins, probably because they're stacked on a shelf. Well, then you have too many stacked on top of each other. That's why I only do one or two stacked. So maybe you've got to figure out what kind of shelving. Send me a message separately and we'll talk about that, because you might not have the right shelving to stack them on. That might be the problem, because kids are never going to take all of the bins. You'll never want to take all the bins off the top to get to the bottom one. So it might not be that you don't have the right supplies. You just don't have the right storage infrastructure for it. So we can talk about that. Old running shoes that are not good for running, but good for others. So a lot of places that take used clothes. Also, again, a lot of this is going to have to wait, but DSW, if you take your old shoes to them in any condition, right by the registers, there's usually a box. And if you're a DSW rewards member, you get like rewards points for it. Nike, I know at least in their outlets, they usually have a box where you can bring, and they'll take it, and they'll take the old treads. My daughter's slipping a sign under the door I'm in. It says hi.
You know, I was probably going to jump in anyway. So, but yes.
But there's a lot of stores that will take old sneakers. And then you have stores like J. Crew, Madewell, they'll take back old jeans. That's all stuff I usually put on my Facebook page. But again, feel free to send me any of those specific questions.
Yeah, I will include the email. I know that everyone feels very motivated right now and probably wants to go organize their entire house. So I think that's where we're going to end today. But thank you, Jodie, for providing us valuable insight and staying a little over time to answer our specific questions. So thanks to everyone. If you are interested in any more virtual programs, it's all on the Alumni Association website. And it sounds like you can kind of follow up with Jodie, and I'll include all of that information in the thank you email. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Send me questions if you have. Thank you.
We'll just hang out here.
Okay.
Thanks all.
Adios.
Adios.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
And